you have a chance to become CEO, spend time on being the best.
Indonesia won't be a vacation.
Everyone's really competitive. Even when the whistle starts, everyone just starts running already.
What doesn't kill you just make you stronger.
We could have done better if we had more time.
It's anybody's game right now, and it can happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Young CEO Development Program Regional Business Talent. Make some noise for our champions!
This is the worst drought. Millions are facing water shortages.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why oh
At Axiata, we strive together to fast forward our promise of advancing Asia.
All of you have a chance to become CEO, spend time on being the best.
Indonesia won't be a vacation.
Everyone's really competitive. Even when the whistle starts, everyone just starts running already.
What doesn't kill you just make you stronger.
We could have done better if we had more time.
It's anybody's game right now, and anything can happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our young CEO development program, regional business talent. Make some noise for our champion!
This is the worst drought. Millions are facing water shortages.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh,
At Axiata, we strive together to fast forward our promise of advancing Asia.
All of If you have a chance to become CEO, spend time on being the best.
Indonesia won't be a vacation.
Everyone's really competitive. Even when the whistle starts, everyone just starts running already.
What doesn't kill you just make you stronger.
We could have done better if we had more time.
It's anybody's game right now, and anything can happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our young CEO development program, regional business talent. Make some noise for our champion!
Kemarau kali ini adalah yang paling kritikal. This is the worst drought. Millions are facing water shortages.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why oh
At Axiata, we strive together to fast forward our promise of advancing Asia.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grad One Live. Today we'll be featuring Axiata, and we're really excited to be discussing a topic that's close to everyone's heart, which is about an uncertain future for fresh graduates. I think everybody can relate on this topic, especially because of the year that we've had. But today, first, let me introduce Axiata. Axiata is the leading telecommunications group in Asia, and with the goal of to develop a new generation of champions by 2022, it focuses on digital telco, digital businesses, and infrastructure. It started off with 40 million customers in 2008. It now has 150 million customers, and it is Asia's largest network covering Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Nepal, Myanmar, Thailand, and Pakistan. With me today, I have three esteemed panelists from Axiata. So let me introduce them one by one. So we have Puan Nurida Azmi, who is the Deputy Group Chief Human Resource Officer. Hi, Puan Nurida. I think you're on mute.
Hi, nice to be here, Nada. Thank you.
Hi, nice. Okay, we have Samantha Quat, who is part of the Axiata Graduate Program Intake 2020 and Young CEO Development Program Cohort 5. Hi, Samantha.
Yep. Hi, Nada. Really happy to be here as well to share my experience.
And lastly, we have Ahmad Fadli, who was part of the University Leadership Development Program, Cohort 7 and Axiata Internship Program. And now he's going to embark on the Axiata Graduate Program Intake 2021. Sounds like a very, you're a big fan of the Axiata programs, I see.
I mean, if you're already there, you just stay lah. Makes life makes life a lot easier. I'm excited to be here. A bit nervous as well, so please don't judge me.
No, I think everyone will actually appreciate the sharing that three of you will actually be doing today. So as mentioned, we'll be talking a bit more about the uncertain future for fresh graduates. COVID-19 has changed the norms for everyone in, especially fresh graduates, I would say. The post-university plans have perhaps become more uncertain. However, there's a way to push through this uncertainty, and that's by firstly expressing in the future, in the present, the future possibilities. For some, it may seem demotivating, but others, they may say challenge accepted. So I'm guessing, Fadli and Samantha are more of the challenge accepted, that team. So I think that, like I was mentioning earlier before we started, that this is a very relevant topic. There's a lot of undergraduates right now who are a bit lost, or, the anxiety levels are at an all-time high, which is, I guess, normal, especially, having experienced the year, having experienced a change or a shift in plans. So many of those who were studying overseas had to suddenly catch the first flight home, or like even those locally have not been in the university campus for months. And sometimes there's no time to adjust. You just need to do it ASAP because there's an exam coming up or there are assignments to be submitted. And then before you know it, you're supposed to look for an amazing career when, times are not as easy as it used to be, if I may say. So for the rest of you, as we touch on the topics, please do drop in questions on the side. We'll have a Q&A with our panelists right after, the session. So I'm going to dive in first by asking Puan Nurida, maybe you can share a bit more about what you do in Axiata.
So in Axiata, as the CHRO designate, one of the biggest priorities that's upcoming for us is actually how do we strategize the human capital and the people experience, particularly under this new change environment. So if you ask me what's the biggest thing that I am doing right now is translating against our strategy to be the next generation digital champion. What are the human capital initiatives that needs to happen? And that will cover a whole plethora of human capital. But I think very, very upfront is caring for the total welfare of our staff and relating it to the stakeholders around. It's like safety is always first for our staff, but then how do we continue the development and the professional experience that, and is very pertinent to the topic that we're talking about. So that's my role, is translating the strategy into human capital initiatives, making sure that the total well-being are there and our staff get the a total experience of what is life in Axiata about. It's a very simplistic thing, but I think as we share, you'll understand a little bit more.
Yeah, and doing all of that a lot of the times virtually this year even more, right? So
Absolutely.
it's a big task that you actually have, Panolida. Samantha, can you share a bit more about your experience and what you do in Axiata?
Yeah. So currently, I'm actually part of the Axiata graduate program. So I'm a management trainee, and I basically started work in January this year. It was quite a journey because I think we only had about 3 months in the office, and then pretty much everything just went virtual from there. But basically, I'll expand on this a bit later. But in the Axiata graduate program, basically it's about three different placements of 6 months each. So currently, I'm in my second placement in Axiata, and you can basically there are a lot of business requests that come in from throughout the entire group, and you get to kind of expand your experiences and join teams that are of interest to you, and also based on your experience as well. So currently I am in group wholesale, doing project management support. So yeah, that's where I am currently.
It sounds interesting. Fadli, like we mentioned before, you went through quite a number of the programs and now going to embark on another one. Can you share your experience, please? You're on mute, I think.
I'm sorry, I have like 3 mute buttons and I get confused which one is on. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, as I was saying earlier to myself, um, I was part of the ULDP program, the University Leadership Development Program, in 2019, which is a 2 week, really intensive, almost zero sleep program where we go through a lot of business simulations and we talk to clients and we go through a lot of these kind of activities to make us kind of better leaders and better CEOs, really understanding how the business landscape and business activities work. Through that program, I got the opportunity to actually do an internship in Axiata. So I've been in Axiata Enterprise since February as an intern, but I recently got hired as a business analyst in August. So yeah, the entire Axiata Enterprise as a group, what we do is we provide kind of a we're basically like consultants for the B2B segment in our opco. So we're talking about Celcom in Malaysia, we're talking about Dialog and Robi and all these other guys in the Axiata regional profile. So yeah, I'm a business analyst there under the product marketing team.
Interesting. Okay. We're going to touch on the big question. So how has adapting to the new norm been for each of you today, particularly when it comes to your work? Panolida, can you start with that question, please?
I mean, the adjustment, the impact has been both negative and positive. I think the positive is really, sometimes we talk about the multi-generations, right? So regardless whether you're a baby boomer, Gen X, or whatever, getting up to speed on the digital tools is a must. And I think this is where you learn to build connectivity differently. I mean, sometimes when you can't hear, people still go towards the computer, right? As if you know when people are speaking. So mannerisms and habit has had to change. So the positive thing is that there is an efficiency in you don't have to travel.
Yeah.
So you start on time, and because it's focused, the meeting's objectives generally gets covered, right? So you get digital and you get very agile, you become very adaptable. All these things are positive, and also learnings. You know, we talk about bespoke learning. So everybody's on the learning via the computer, whether it's your own one or LinkedIn Learning or Coursera or anything you want to go. So those are the positives, but the negatives has been that there is no boundary at all. And when does it end? As professionals, you want to get to the last bit, and you have the simulated digital coffee, but it still feels a little bit awkward. The genuine feeling of connectivity, the human touch is we need to balance. And I think what the negative thing is that I worry about the total well-being about our staff and our colleagues. Mental health is being put up, And I worry about the fatigue that comes, even physical. How many of us really take time to stand up, walk about? And, if you have a boss who calls you, you're not going to say no. Generally, you won't. And, Axiata is in 11 countries, as you know. So we go from starting at as early as we start in Malaysia, actually the earliest, and then all the way 3-4 hours behind. So there is even less connectivity. And my colleagues here, Samantha and Fadi, are also going on a regional basis. So how do we build it? So I think that's the negative, Nada, is we have to learn to balance, and it's easier said than done. And it's something that I think it behooves the people managers to say, Fadli, Samantha, close your computer, go have a life.
It's true.
And I think that's the negative thing about. But I must say that I have, it's such an impressive adjustment for mankind to be agile, to be more compassionate, and perhaps in some people bring out the kinder versions of us. That's a little bit about my side about the adjustment where work is concerned, given the pandemic and the lockdown.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot to learn along the way, not just about work, right, or even technology, but it's more about understanding your colleagues, people management. Some of them live with, an elderly parent or with young children, but while still needing to deliver the role. So I guess, like you said, we've all become a bit more kinder and compassionate. Um, Samantha, could you share with us a bit about how adapting has been for you, especially since, like you said, you joined for 3 months and then, bam, you're working from home. So, well, it comes with a lot of benefits and also negative, sort of, perks. But Puan Nolida was saying it's a lot of balancing that you had to do. Maybe you can share a bit about it.
Yeah, I think definitely what Pamanolida was saying is definitely true. I think in the beginning it was kind of a struggle to really find that balance and really compartmentalize like which part of your day is dedicated to work, which part of your day is dedicated to the time you need to actually rest and recuperate. I mean, I'm somebody who I take the train every day to work to the office, and generally, the timings when I would come into the office and leave the office would be based on, when's the next train, what time am I planning to be home for dinner with my family. Whereas now it's kind of, like the second you wake up, it's like, okay, you might have a breakfast, you might have a coffee, and then it's just straight away work all the way until whatever time it can be. And there isn't a set time for you to go home and, kind of shut off and be like, okay, that's enough for today. That's the limits to my productivity. So I think a lot of it has also been kind of becoming more self-aware about what your capabilities are. And I think what your capacity is within a 24-hour window, because there'll be days when obviously a bit of overtime is definitely needed, especially since Panolita said, currently in my role, I'm dealing with a lot of stakeholders who are also in, a lot of time zones that are behind us, that are behind Malaysia. Even I think Nepal is something like 2 hours and 15 minutes behind us as well. So finding time to really shift things around, and I think also shift your mindset to really work differently, especially working from home, has been a challenge, but I think slowly you've kind of gotten there. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience so far. But I think I've reached a comfortable spot right now where I can kind of assess myself and be like, okay, that's enough for today.
It took time for us to slowly get used to it and understand, how to actually plan our day, what are things that we can actually squeeze in, when can we do things more efficiently as well. Fadli, maybe you can share a bit about this.
Sure. So yeah, it's the same thing as Ponorlida and Samantha was saying. It's all about these time management things. But for me, just to add on, because I just got out of university, so I'm still. We don't have. I haven't had that working experience where I'm staying in office from morning till night. So I'm a bit more adaptable in that sense. But I think what's the really kind of hard part for me is because I'm always constantly asking questions like, is this how you want me to do things? Is this correct? Because I'm not still trying to figure out how everything works, and that makes it so much easier in the office where someone's just next to me or someone's just behind me. So that social aspect is gone when you're at home, and it's really hard to ask questions, maybe just on WhatsApp or on we use Microsoft Teams, because it's not the same as asking, hey, is this right? I'm not gonna just WhatsApp someone, hey, is this right? And it's like, yeah, okay, thanks. I'm not gonna do that, right? So yeah, so I think, and we have a lot of fun in the office as well, especially if you really jive well with your office mates. So working from home, while for some people it could be more productive, really depends on how your working style is. If you're more independent, I guess it works out. But for me, in my team, where we're really clingy and we really like to talk to each other and kind of push each other out and help each other out, it's really hard for us.
See, yeah. I totally understand what you mean, because like when you start out, there's a lot of questions, right? And you don't want to feel that every time you ask someone, it's like you're bugging them or anything like that. But although I'm very sure that your team or your superiors are more than happy to actually answer your questions and guide you, but just naturally, socially, you feel that is it okay to keep asking? So yeah, I totally understand that, and I think a lot of people are actually going through the same thing as well. And the media doesn't help as well. There's a lot of articles right now painting a picture of uncertainty, and they make it very grim. How 2021 or any graduates that's coming out, there's going to be a huge number of unemployed graduates. What's going to happen? Um, and as someone reading it, because as you graduate you have a lot of plans. You dream so much that you want to achieve, and you want to get that great job, start your career. You start off in a positive note, and like your mental health does take a toll when you read these articles, because you're like, oh, am I just dreaming or delusional, or is this something that I can actually achieve? Especially when I read everywhere that the statistics of the number of unemployed graduates keep rising and rising. Will I be part of that as well? Or am I one of the lucky ones that managed to get something? And even if I grab that something, is that something that I really want? So, Puan Norida, in your point of view, based on your years of experience in Malaysia, overseas, everywhere, you deal with a lot of young people, and they've told me that you've always given them very good advice. Should fresh graduates pay attention to these articles and the picture it paints, or are there things that they should be focusing on? For example, further developing themselves, or what should they do in your experience?
So this this is a very multifaceted question. We have to be realistic. We don't want to live in a cloud that takes us away from the negative side. So I think you need to understand the facts that are outside. But be careful in just taking it on face value. Find multiple sources of information. So there is a general says what's the number of unemployed graduates. Also look at sources. Where are the jobs that are lacking? The graduates, the degrees that have come out, and the job market. And it requires the young graduates to really understand, do a little bit of industry analysis and things like that. But I think more importantly is to focus on what could we do better ourselves in addressing it. How you differentiate yourselves? Could you do part-time courses? Could you upskill yourself? Could you do something when you say that, oh, they're looking for data analytics? And sometimes these things are much more sophisticated than it sounds. It's a skill that you have to build anyway. And look for mentors and networks, informal or formal. And to this, there are like our Axiata Young Talent Program, which I think is something that I'm very proud of, to be part of an organization that really goes into the talent way before that they even come out to the market, right? They go to the secondary schools, to the university, and young professionals, because the AYTP, that's an acronym, right? Everybody, all the companies love acronyms. Axiata Young Talent Program. If you don't remember any other acronym, just remember AYTP today. And I think it's a very holistic program that puts in experiential, that puts in both behavioral as well as technical capability, but more importantly is social connections, because my two young colleagues here will say that the way of working in the future is really about collaboration. So I think do things that interest yourself. I mean, just imagine if you get an interview and then you say, oh, I'm part of this program, I'm pursuing this interest. As an employer, I look for these experiences because it's beyond your university degree. because real experiences shows your connectivity. And look at skill sets. And in the HR world of speaks, they move beyond competencies to capabilities. Do you know a little bit about the sustainability, the diversity, equity, and inclusion? Pick up an analytical skills if you can, data analytics, build your financial acumen. But there's something also, make sure that you demonstrate strong intellectual curiosity and be able to relate. And what the pandemic has shown is not only do we look at these features in leaders, but in fellow colleagues, compassion, strong communication, and authenticity. And, you know, I think these are things that in a very difficult environment, pivot it, pivot it such that you can leverage on your strength and take an opportunity. So we have the Axiata internship program that Fadli will share with great passion, our graduate program that Samantha with. These are experiences that we should go. And increasingly, and I must say for my colleagues in the HR industries, we do understand in how can we help the young grow, take on this challenge that the pandemic has given us. And I hope that will give hope. And I think that's another thing. Stay positive. And, you know, on the day that you're negative, run, do a marathon, go on the treadmill, drink 10 cups of coffee, but get out from the mindset and have a very achievement-oriented mindset.
Thank you, Puanarida. Like you said, I mean, since things are uncertain, however, there are things that we can control, you know, ourselves, how we react to it, how we respond, how we further develop ourselves to fit into the current norms. I think you've given a very good summary on what someone should actually do, but most importantly, you ended off with mindset, because I think that controls everything. Because if you're down and negative, everything you look will be too difficult for you to actually, you know, take advantage of. So I'm going to go to, you know, the two of you, Fadli and Samantha, first to talk a bit more about, you know, the can-do attitude and the mindset. So in facing with, you know, the current challenges, what is the mindset that fresh graduates ought to have? Or what were some things that you guys had? You know, people talk a lot about resilience, adaptability, optimistic, agility comes out a lot this year. But if we look at, you know, world leaders and CEOs of top corporations, they always tick the box of being resilient and adaptable as an individual. Sometimes it's because they have no other choice, you know. Throw what you may at them, they still be able to pull through and adapt to the new environment. So these things are, you know, items that we should pick out and identify. So now looking at the context of an individual, both of you are fresh graduates starting, you know, out your careers. Maybe you can share a bit more about your mindset. Samantha, you can start first, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think in terms of my mindset, one thing that I've kind of realized, I think, over this year is that regardless of what your situation is and what's going through in your life, you know, like how down you can feel because COVID is honestly quite depressing. I think you have to just have it in yourself to kind of tell yourself that you need to be persistent. Resilience is one thing, but I think, you know, being persistent also comes with the kind of background of you're struggling a bit lah, you know, you're struggling a bit, and everybody is kind of struggling within this period, you know, struggling to adapt, struggling to find new avenues, to find work, to upskill themselves, and it can be a struggle. But I think at the end of it, if you can keep your mind on the goal at hand, whether your goal is to let's say sign up for LinkedIn Learning, to finish a course on Coursera, to get hired, you know, working towards that goal, and I think planning how you go about your day towards a particular goal definitely helps a lot. And for me, I think, you know, looking at the big picture is definitely good, but I think it's been a lot better for me to kind of day by day be persistent in, let's say, like, okay, by the end of today, I'm going to achieve like this. And it might be one step out of a wider achievement, but at the very least, you can tell yourself, hey, I finished this one thing today. And, you know, for a lot of fresh graduates, it might be that, okay, I'm going to send my CV to 5 different companies. I'm going to follow up on a few different emails. You know, I remember that when I was applying for jobs and I was a fresh grad, it was terrifying. it was so scary to do that, but it helped, to give yourself that kind of achievement, like, oh, I completed like a few hours of LinkedIn Learning today, and then I sent out like 5 CVs, and I heard back from this other place, so I think it really does just help you build your confidence for one thing, but also it shows you, and it's kind of you telling yourself that I can persist through this, and I'm struggling, but at the same time I am still reaching these achievements for yourself, and even little things can be achievements. I think you have to be realistic about the situation. It's really difficult, but persist and really find yourself being proud of your little achievements along the way as well. So I think that's kind of what I've been telling myself, I think has helped me get through my days the most this year. Yeah.
Like celebrating milestones,
Yeah.
you set targets for yourself and you celebrate little wins, because if you're going to look at the big picture, it does look daunting. So to keep yourself going, it's really important to celebrate and maybe have a little bit of cake because you sent out the 5. You need to, whatever motivates you, if running motivates you or anything like that, I think it's really important, and I think you're on the right track, Samantha. It's really good that you celebrate yourself. Fatih, what about you? What was your mindset? I mean, it's good that you went through the 2 programs. I think that has definitely given you the exposure of how to think, because you were an undergraduate when you came into these programs, right? And now that you've actually, you've graduated, and I'm so glad that you've actually got into the Axiata graduate program. So good on you. But what sort of mindset that kept you going?
Okay. There's a fear, I think, with a lot of fresh graduates, myself included, that we want to go with what we study. For me, I'm very fortunate to actually go into something that I studied. So I did international business in university, and now I am doing product marketing. So it's not too far off. Um, but there's a fear with a lot of undergrads where they're like, I'm doing accounting. Do I have to stay in accounting? I'm doing law. Do I have to be a lawyer? And when they want to branch off, it's really hard for them because they don't know what they're doing. They say, am I qualified enough for this? And it's the same thing when I move into my job, where of course I'm doing marketing, but then my boss was telling me, you need to be a very technical person. You need to be a very creative person. Not only creative in terms of adaptability, but creative in the sense that I have to start doing kind of a graphics design. I have to do video editing, things I've told myself never do. um, and I think Samantha and Puan Nurlida can attest to this as well. A lot of people from Samantha's batch were engineering and law students who are now in law. I just stalked Puan Nurlida on LinkedIn just now. She was a BD officer, and now she's in HR. So all of us are going to change. We're gonna be data analysts. We're gonna be HR people. Something that we've never even thought about being before. So the mindset that I had was preparing for that change and not being so kind of stringent on one role, because all of the roles that exist now will change. They won't exist anymore 5, 10 years down the line. So being adaptable to that change and creating that mindset is like, what I'm doing right now is probably not what I'm gonna do in 5 years' time. It would be great if it was, but that's probably not the case, and we have to be ready for that. So I think that's the thing that fresh graduates have to kind of take the leap and take the plunge in moving into something that they've never studied before, learn something new, forget what they've learned, accept kind of the skills that they already have, and then move on with that.
Sort of embrace what's happening, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because everyone has the fear, like you said, that if I don't get a job in the role that I studied, then everything I learned in university was a waste. Actually, it's the exact opposite. I know a lot of accounting firms or a lot of businesses looking for engineers because they bring a different taste to things, a different mindset. So totally, especially I think this year is the year of embracing any change or anything that's coming your way, like full charging at you. I think that it's a test to see how you actually use it to your advantage and leverage it. Puan Nolida, for you, I mean, like I said, you've mentioned that you've met a lot of graduates along the way, and taking from what Fadli and Samantha had said, what sort of mindset do you think graduates should have, and or what did you as well have to because you are actually shaping the lives of so many graduates right now, working with them, making sure that everyone's okay. What is the main key mindset you think you would like to touch on?
I think this my two colleagues here picked out the two best attributes. One is, we talk about agility, but persistence, grit. You just, it gets, sometimes there is a reality in this thing, it gets tougher before it gets better. And I think this is a little bit of the resetting that has happened. And there used to be generalization, right, of Gen Ys, millennials, right? They want to soar the sky and scale it. It's a very unfortunate circumstance, but he's brought a little bit of reviewing and recalibrating what is pragmatic. And I think the best way is actually what you have done, Samantha, is to break it down today, tomorrow. But I think it's also good to have a little bit of a long play. And like what Fadli is saying, is like today you may do something A, tomorrow you may do B. In an organization such as ours, where we look and promote talent mobility, you must be, if you are hungry and you get in the right organization, you must say sometimes like, okay, I don't have 100% of the solution. If I have technical capability that you are building from your whatever you graduate, you couple it with the right attitude and disposition, it will come through when you are talking to your interviewer, when you network and get somebody to be your mentor, to be your coach. So if it's anything that the mindset that I would recommend that the young graduate have is be very open-minded. Listen, and sometimes the job is not what you think about it. And I'm saying this, I have the privilege of mentoring right now about 5 people. And, and somebody who's in the aeronautical science wants to do political science. Ask yourself, how many jobs are there outside as you make the career shift? And it's okay, you think you do. I did finance and computer science, and today I'm in human capital. So your mind, you can really stretch it. And I also would suggest that the young talents is when you hang out with your community, hang out people with different interests as well, because then you will be able to be stretched mentally, some things that you never thought about it. And I know that the younger generation is the generation of the community. So you guys have such an advantage to tell them, what nerdy things are you doing? Look, Fadlis now is great in graphics. I'm sure next time we'll send him to do a Canva for our corporate communication or something. And also, I'd like to say from the leader side, we are all tasked to understand the new norm. So don't be afraid to ask. No question is ever so simple or so stupid, because a good people manager will understand that bringing you up the curve has now changed. It's very different. So be brave and be open-minded. That's my advice on the mindset that the young graduates should have.
Thank you, Ponolida. I think 3 of you have given very, very good advice. Like you said, be brave, face it head on, take that challenge. So just now, Ponolida, you mentioned about the programs, right? How the Axiata programs are very, very complete. And it's so good that if for a young graduate who's got the right attitude, you want to do different things, you have that flexibility and full of opportunities in the organization. So I want to turn my question to Samantha and Fadli. Based on the previous question, perhaps both of you could elaborate more on the programs that you've gone through, with us to upskill yourselves, because these programs I think have definitely shaped you a lot. Fadli, you want to start?
Sure. So I did the University Leadership Development Program, which is a 2-week program focused on undergraduate students. So that's the precursor to me getting the internship. So for those who want kind of a really long 2-week interview for an internship, you can join the University Leadership Development Program. The top 20 from that from each batch gets a opportunity to intern with the company. So yeah, a bunch of us are here, and it's like we've never moved on. We need to find new friends. All right, so the ULDP program is a really intense 2-week program where we go through all these sort of business simulations and kind of and activities and classrooms and workshop sessions and discussions where we shape ourselves to become better business people in a sense. Um, we come from a diverse group of people. Some people, most half of us are from international universities from the UK, from the US. The other half of us are coming from the local universities. And we're not all business students. Some of us are engineering, environmental sciences, physicists, mathematicians, or all these kind of range of people who come together and talk, figure out how to solve solutions in a business kind of context. Um, is the thing that I've learned most about things is I think a lot of people don't really understand how businesses work, especially those who didn't study businesses. And doing the ULDP is a safe way to experiment, to take risks, and to see if it plays out in the business context. And I think something that you take away from it, aside from the knowledge, aside from the experiences, is you're gaining context from all over the place. You're making friends that who are very like-minded with you, and the people you who are kind of really high flyers in their own sense, and people who can push each other. We're all constantly pushing each other to become better, whether it is in work, whether it is in studies, whether it is exercising. Some people have invited me hiking. I've never went, but it's okay. um, but the ULDP is that program where you, even because you're with each other 2 weeks, not having sleep, um, it really pushes you to become closer to each other and rely on each other. And I think it's a kind of a really good introduction to the working workspace, because that's what you're essentially doing day in day out, where you're relying on each other, you're learning from each other, and you're constantly developing and pushing each other up. So it's definitely a great program for those who really want to try test themselves, especially in in university, and really want to learn a lot.
Thank you, Fadli. Samantha?
Yep. So for me, I'll share a bit more on the AGP, the Axiata Graduate Program, and then maybe I can go into the Young CEO Development Program as well. So, I mean, as part of the AGP, the graduate program, there's basically, it's structured kind of like this, where there's 3 6-month rotations or 3 6-month placements, where you can be put into essentially, I mean, I would pretty much call it any department that's currently hiring within Axiata. I mean, obviously, it's definitely subject to different levels of experience needed, and so on and so forth. But the kind of opportunities are endless. But also, with each placement, with each end and start of each placement, there are different opportunities that arise depending on what division currently needs somebody to help out. And I think what's been really good about it is that it's really pushed all of us within my cohort right now to really push past our comfort zone. Like Fadli was saying, what you're studying in university will likely not be what you're going to be doing in the long run. And it's definitely a good thing if you can expand on what you've studied in university, but there are a lot of opportunities outside that realm and that bubble that you might actually find yourself enjoying and really pushing yourself to strive in. So in my cohort, like Fadli mentioned earlier, there's, I think, 4 or 5 engineers. There are about 4 more who are lawyers. There are a few of us who did business and commerce, so that's along the realms of marketing, international business, finance, economics, and there's even a few really, well, not necessarily out there, but not typical, I think, in the corporate sense, people with backgrounds in geology and in literature. So honestly, I think there's a really wide spectrum of where you can come from and how far you can go within the program, because even right now, I was a marketing and media grad that also had a double major in politics. That's my background. And the experiences that I've had so far, I was kind of a junior consultant / business analyst for ADA, which is basically Axiata's digital marketing, digital advertising arm. And currently I'm in group wholesale, where basically what I'm doing is completely unrelated and it's very telco centric. It looks at the 6 different telcos underneath Axiata group. And you're looking into wholesale negotiations for things like voice, for things like data capacity, for things like roaming. And it's totally beyond what I expected, like what is wholesale, what is telco, it's the bread and butter of the company. But really until this point now, I was like, wow, I did not know that this is a chance that I could have had, and I think it's so interesting to really push yourself past where you think the limits of your comfort zone are. Because I think even for some of our engineers in my program right now, some of them are in business planning, they're in business development. I think there are lawyers who are in marketing. There are others who are, I think our literature grad is currently a project manager as well. So it's very different. And I think the opportunities you can get are really endless within the program. And the program is really quite holistic. It's very well-rounded, and it really caters to any kind of fresh grad. So really, I don't think there's that much of an emphasis on what your background is, and more of how willing you are to push yourself forward and make a space for yourself within the company. And I think that's something that's always been communicated to us from HR and from talent management as well. I think Axiata really focuses a lot on your development, career and character-wise. We've had lots of workshops regarding, building healthy habits. The seven habits is very, very important in Axiata by Stephen Covey. And there've also been things like, analytics for everyone, where we kind of get a crash course into data analytics, be it Excel, Power BI, or Python. And it really caters to different levels of your experience. And I think the Aytp program is really good at really including everybody within our cohort and really pushing us as far as we can go, while also catering to what people may not have so much experiences and what they want to get more experience in as well. So it's been really great. Yeah, and with your entrance into the AGP program, you also get a fast track, instant kind of participation into the Young CEO Development Program. So that's YCDP. So the YCDP program is something that actually happens across 2 years, and it's basically 8 boot camps, or so they're called, where they're basically business simulations and lots of challenges. I actually just completed the third one recently, which is the Digital Business Challenge. But before this, you get challenged to form a business case and really pitch, I think, a solution to existing businesses who are partners of Axiata or sponsors of this particular program. And so far, we've covered service innovation and product innovation. We get to interact with these sponsors and investors and industry leaders who are there to guide and mentor you as part of this program. And for this particular program, it's not just limited to being within Axiata, but it's actually open to the public. So you're actually dealing with and I think interacting with a lot of your peers of a similar age group and experience group from all over the country and different industries as well. So I think it really gives you that exposure to so many different industries, and it really pushes you to think outside the box, interact with people outside of your friend group and your work group as well. And I think it's really been a great way to really expand on what can be done and where you think you're going in your career, because it gives you so many opportunities and new ways to see where you're going and find your interest as to, what you want to do in the future as well. So
yeah, hearing both of you share about the program, it sounds really holistic. Like it covers so many different aspects, and you grow in so many different ways, like you said, even individually as a company, and so many different things. So I'm going to go into, because we're receiving so many questions in the Q&A. I'm going to dive, yeah?
May I just say a closing remark about the AYTP?
Yes.
Just to bring together, because, the objective of it is to build CEOs for the nation. And I think that's where I think our differentiation is the CEO, identifying the DNA of what would make a game changer CEO. And I'm so proud to hear my 2 young colleagues here speaking about them. And whilst the program may have closed for this year, I would encourage people who are interested to perhaps follow us on social media to see the opportunities. It's something that we're very proud of as a talent factory for the country, and building CEO DNA. I needed to bring that to closure. Thank you for giving me the time to close it, Nada.
No problems. Actually, the question that I wanted to ask from the Q&A, because, while both of you were sharing about the program, we've actually received more questions about, Puan Nurida, maybe you can assist with this. What's the most important thing you look for in someone when recruiting them in the AYTP, compared to, because there are a lot of different programs and you're actually leading this and it covers so many different aspects, right? What does it take for someone to actually be accepted in any of these? Maybe you can share.
It's a balance between your competencies as well as some of the traits and behavior that you have that will make you successful in the program. We also want to make you successful. There's no point just opening it out and then it's going to be a challenging. And you heard my two colleagues say it's a rigorous program. So, whilst there is the normal GPA, CGPA, but I think we look for people that has the traits that will make them successful, the intellectual curiosity, your capability, and we have what we call our people quality framework that we measure people with leadership disposition. And leadership doesn't mean that you're top of the pinnacle. You're all leaders in our everyday experiences, right? So we talk about also motivation to do things. We talk about functional capabilities. And the last part is cultural fit into our organization. Axiata goes by, uncompromising integrity and exceptional performance. So there's a whole host of capabilities we look for. So we look, and there's always situational judgment questions that we ask them, apart from doing psychometric. So we look for people that shows this as part of the assessment that we do. So there is the academic side, there is the behavioral and predisposition, and we are very fortunate to have a lot of interest to all the audience. So there's already a fair amount of competition. You do a lot of personal branding in this association with this. So those are the traits we look for. Another.
Thank you. We have a question. I think Fadli or Samantha will be able to answer this one. So when you actually joined the program, right, I'm sure you had some expectations of what you wanted to gain from it. Has the reality actually matched the expectation? Because like you said, there's a lot of fear when you actually participate in something new. And these programs are extensive, rigorous, and it does come with a lot of rewards. But have they balanced out now that, Fadli, you've gone through quite a number, and Samantha as well. Maybe you can share whether it's all that it actually says to be. Samantha?
Yeah, sure. I wasn't sure if Fadli was going to say something, but yeah. So I think definitely, if anything, I honestly think that the programs themselves have kind of gone beyond what I could have ever expected them to be. I think especially considering COVID and all the implications of COVID, it's really gone as well as it possibly could, if not better, even with the need to go virtual for many, many things. So for the Axiata graduate program, I think it's really good because communications between us and as well as talent management and the Aytp team who have generally been guiding us on this journey, it's been pretty good. And I think with all things considered, it's been really exciting. And like Fadli mentioned, I think for ULDP, you get close to all these people who you're pushed into this pressure cooker with, right? I think it's kind of similar with the AGP as well. Like I'm very, very close and fortunate enough to be so close to my cohort mates. There's 17 of us in this intake. And I think if anything, it's been really good to also have a sounding board that isn't your direct circle of work. So you can actually compare your experiences. You can really understand what other people are doing in their roles where you might not be able to speak to somebody that is of your level of experience, to actually find out, oh, that might be something that I'm interested in. So I think having, the program itself is wonderful and fantastic, but I think the network that you gain from the program and as well from Axiata as a whole is really, really good, because I think Axiata, like Puan Nolita mentioned, like there's that cultural aspect of being in Axiata, I think. And I think like overall, it's been really good to have that kind of as the strong foundation to the program itself. And I think that's what really makes the program as strong as it actually is, because they really want to treat you as family. They really want to include you in so many different opportunities and, different things that you can stick your hands into where you wouldn't have had the opportunity before. So it's really gone beyond my expectations,
Thanks, Samantha. Fadli, what about you?
Yeah, so you hear a lot of nightmares from seniors about the LDP. You people will tell you, as my seniors were telling me, you're not going to sleep, you're gonna be pushed really hard. And for me, as a naive young boy, who just you go off thinking that's not true. I could get through it probably, but then you go through it and you're like, you know what, I get it. Yeah, because it is very rigorous. I can't lie about that, but it does change you for the better. You come in. Of course, when you're there, you're kind of pressured. You're stressed all the time. There's not a lot. Well, there is a lot of fun, there isn't a lot of space for you to relax. I think most of us got, on average, maybe 2 hours of sleep per night, and that's actually not because the organizers are telling you to do that. It's not that they've packed everything up like that. It's just that because everybody's just working so hard, to reach the deliverable, that we kind of sacrifice ourselves for it. And anything that you sacrifice, for most things that you sacrifice yourself for, you gain something exponential out of it. And that's what I experienced as well. Because before the program, I think lecturers, they're a bit more lax. They really want to try to help you out, but they sometimes they help you out just, making it a little bit easier on you. Whereas the other piece, on the other hand, they help you out by giving you the highest of standards. And when you leave the program, that standard stays with you as a sort of a, post-traumatic thing. So a lot kind of a PTSD thing. Before the program, a lot of my presentations is more like, you know what, I know my stuff, I can get through it, no problem. But then after the program, for each presentation, it could be just like a really simple 5-minute one, just for my classmates. And I would be researching all through the night just to make sure I know what I'm talking about and I'm not fluffing and waffling out through it. So it raises your standards. It makes you a better it makes you a better person, especially when you're in the workplace, but also just a general person in general. And because, as Samantha said, the networking that you have, these people are all pushing each other to become the very best versions of themselves. And it's really inspiring, I feel. I would consider myself a lazy person, but since I have all these other friends and they're like, Fali, you know what, let's go to this program. I'm like, okay lah, let's go. Let's join this mentorship program. Let's do it, and then through the power of kind of your community, you kind of pushed off this cliff where you in fact become a much better person and a much better employee, and just generally just more happier, I feel.
Oh, that's amazing. It's just like what Puan Noida mentioned, right? Try and put yourself in, different groups of people that will push you through. And you're actually a life example of what she was talking about. So I have one question. It'll be one of the last questions from the floor. It's for all of you. Maybe you can tell us about a day in the life at Axiata, and does it include work-life balance? Maybe Puan Noida, you can start first.
A day in the life of Axiata. Oh, I just joined Axiata October 5th, so relatively new. A lot of digital connections being built. So a day in the life for me is get up, check that I have all the emails from my 3 bosses attended to. Stakeholder management is key. That's going to be my advice. Another one is I make sure every day my assistant helps me have a courtesy call with somebody I've never met in Axiata before. So I want to build connections. The reality is I'm not going to wait until the new normal come, because Tan Sri Jamal says it is an evolving normal. We don't know when we're going to land to the new normal, so let's adjust. Yeah. And then if I'm working from home, I have lunch with my husband because I know it's going to be a late night. You need to have connections with the people in your life. And then you work, you do meetings back to back. I do try and stand up. And I know people on this the panel here knows, because I try and buy some things that make work from life easy. I've got a green screen, I've got a ring light and everything else, because I want to be as effective. And those are tools of the trade. You don't have to buy the most expensive. But what is important is I do try and clock off and do something at night. So I'm a Netflix junkie. So it's still a life of Axiata, but then in between of looking, I'll be answering my emails on the phone. Because there's no boundary, only you are responsible to set your boundary. So my off time is going to Netflix and online shopping. But above all, as part of a professional, you deliver. So that's a day in the life of Axiata for me.
Okay, that's nice. I really like the whole meeting with someone you've never met before, because in the office you can bump into someone and you're like, oh, and then you can introduce yourself. But now it will not happen because you need to make the initiative, and if you don't, then it just won't happen. So
just like real life,
really cool.
Just like real life, sometimes you meet people digitally, you have no chemistry, but yes, it's the same thing whether it's digital or thing. And sometimes you have chemistry, it could take 4 hours. And I think that's adjustment to the new phase of engagement.
Yeah, nice. Samantha, maybe you can share your day.
Yeah, so I think for me, so my current role is project management office. So it's tracking a lot of initiatives. It's not so much of operational, but it really is tracking the operations of different teams. So when I start my day, it generally starts with emails. You know, it's sending reminders to people saying, hey, it would be good if I could get this information from you that I can collate. And then going through the day, it would be sitting in on meetings, a lot of contributing to meetings, a lot of setting up meetings as well as speaking to all these different stakeholders. And I think definitely like what Manolita said, like stakeholder management is so important, especially in this COVID era. And it's so much more difficult, I think, to have that natural kind of like quick and easy connection of, you know, like Partly mentioned as well, in the office, it's like, hey, hi, you know, how are you doing? Can I ask you about something? But I think one thing that I have every day actually within my work week is a daily kind of stand-up meeting with my direct supervisor. And I think not all bosses necessarily do this. Some might do it a few times a week, some might do it every day. But my boss personally does it every day. And it's generally a half an hour kind of meeting to update my boss on my progress of what I'm currently working on, whether whether I'm overwhelmed, whether I'm struggling a bit, you know, what are my priorities for the day, what are the upcoming deadlines I have to meet. And it's really helped in, I think setting expectations, especially with the people around me, because I have that direct connection to my boss and it's a daily thing. So it's kind of like, oh, I can, if I'm experiencing some difficulties in the morning, I can kind of put together like, okay, I need to reach out to this person, but I'm not sure who to reach out to. That's something I can raise with my boss later. So it's kind of, I collect these things on the go if they're not too important and too urgent to be addressed in that moment itself. And then I kind of run through everything with him kind of after lunch in the afternoon, which is when we have our meeting. Towards the end of the day, usually it's a lot of communicating with other stakeholders, getting that information, relaying that information to my boss, working on helping him with presentations to different stakeholders as well. And by the end of the day, like what Marlita said, I try and clock off. For me and my family, daily dinner with my family is very important. So my family, some of us are working from home, some of us are still at the office, depending on our work. But dinner is a given in my household where, you know, we all sit down together, be it 7:30, be it 8 o'clock, we sit down together, we share a meal, and I think it's the perfect end to a day. And in the evenings, I do go on YouTube, I go on Netflix, but I also like to crochet as a craft. So that's something that I really like to do in my free time as well. And MCO has given me a lot of time to to kind of work on that too. And it's nice to kind of switch off and have that repetitive kind of thing to kind of switch off with at the end of the day. So that's my day.
Yeah, it's really nice that your boss actually sits with you every day for half an hour. It helps to build that connection further, and it humanizes everything, I think. So that's really cool, and would love to see your crochet work through the whole MCO. I'm sure you have a whole room full of it. Fadli, what about you? Any side talent as well?
Side talents?
No, basically, how do you spend your day?
I think my day starts off a lot different for a lot of more people. My boss is very good in the sense that he always wants a kind of holistic lifestyle for all of his employees. So he'll make us do like, "Hey, have you gone to the gym today?" Starts WhatsApping. So I'm like, it's me. um, yeah, but because I don't deal with too many stakeholders. I think Samantha and Panor, always have someone to kind of email. But for me, it's more I keep track with my team. A lot of my work is supporting my team or what they need to get done. And for me, I don't like to end work late, but I do like to start work early. I'm a very morning person. I need my breakfast. If I don't get breakfast, I get very cranky for the rest of the day.
Grumpy.
So I start off. I think a lot of people start off work maybe 9 or 8. I will start off work maybe 6 or 7, just because that's where my mind works best. But I clock off a bit earlier because once it's post lunch around 3 or 4, my brain gets a bit off. Yeah, but a lot of my work revolves around research, creating any sort of marketing materials such as graphics or video editing. And a lot of it's just really supporting whatever my team is doing. So whatever they need to get done, which could be a variety of things. It could be a bit of emailing stakeholder management. It could be timelining, really understanding what our milestones are. It's all of these kind of things that I'm learning and picking up to do. So it's really great for me since I'm doing a lot of variety of things that I've never tried before, and I'm constantly learning. because my boss is also trying to get me to go to the gym as well. So there's a lot of kind of holistic development going on. Um, yeah, so I think there's a good work-life balance, I feel, in the team, and there's a lot of social aspects to it as well because we're always keeping in touch, always helping each other.
That's awesome. I think today we've touched on a lot of, insights about how, with an uncertain future for fresh graduates, I think how to navigate and things like that. So before we end off, I would like to ask all of our esteemed panelists to maybe share some advice. Maybe Puan Nolida, you can start off first about, for everyone tuning in, what can help them navigate the evolving norm, like you mentioned just now, Puan Nolida.
If there's a simple advice I will give is be open-minded and be brave. And you may venture into things or do things that may not seem the natural thing, but it could be the best thing for you, either as an interim measure or the final. But please keep your mental state positive because I think we're going to need a lot of mental resilience and strength. So please take care of yourselves first.
Nice words.
And network and build connections that will may give you opportunities that are not always just on newspapers and portals.
Yeah, it doesn't end, right? The networking, it shouldn't end regardless of how we do it, but it should still continue despite everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're an example of networking within the company and outside right now because you join in a time where it's almost impossible to network, but you've created that journey for yourself to ensure that that still happens daily, which I think is very good. Samantha, advice.
Yeah, I think kind of in line with what Juanolita was saying, I think, being open-minded is so important. And I think to a lot of people who might have, let's say, like free time on their hands, definitely, I think pushing yourself to upskill is definitely something that you can do. And I think the best thing about so many things being online is that you actually have there are a lot of different free trials or like monthly trials that you can actually sign up for, be it LinkedIn Learning, be it Coursera. I think during COVID, basically a lot of these companies that were offering paid courses actually had a lot of free trial options. And I think when it comes to something like this, it's kind of it's up to you to manage your own expectations and manage your time well and push yourself to really try it. And it's a space where you can safely do these things without the fear of failure, I think. So what's stopping you from doing it? I think like you really have to push yourself to find something new to engage in. And, if you try out something like data science and you find after, let's say, 10 hours of learning that actually this might not be what I want to do, at the very least, that it's something that you might not want to do if it really doesn't resonate with you and it really doesn't push you to keep on going. But I think it's the best time to really try all of these things. And like Panolita said about trying to network, there are so many platforms now that offer, like mentoring, and there are so many different, even Facebook groups where you can find similar like-minded people who are looking for jobs or, who are offering support to people looking for jobs. So I think if you can try and surround yourself with these little, with these tools and, finding ways to network even in this situation, I think it would be really good to just keep yourself on your toes a bit, but also know your limits and your capacity moving forward. So that would be my advice.
Okay, thanks, Samantha. And Badli, maybe you can share, because like you said, you've gone through so many programs and you're the one living it the most because you are the fresh graduate right now. Your advice would be the most authentic. Perhaps you can share for those, in the same position as you.
Sure. I think it's really adding on to what Samantha was saying, that the upskilling thing. I think a line that I heard a while ago that really resonated with me is the measure of a person is the ability to learn, relearn, and unlearn all the things that I have in their life. Because we're constantly adapting and constantly trying something new, that ability is so important. And I think something that Samantha mentioned as well, but mentorship. A mentor, I feel, is one of the most important things you can have at the start of your career, because you're not really sure what you're trying to do. You're not really sure how to navigate the kind of professional workplace, and doing it by yourself. Of course, some people will argue that doing it by yourself is a better learning experience, but having a mentor there is it would be so helpful to you, because having a mentor not only helps you out in terms of the knowledge that they pass on, but of course their habits, the kind of work ethic, their connections, all of these things that they have, especially if you drive really well with your mentor and you have a very good relationship, will help you out so much. You're learning because you're learning from them and you're kind of taking advantage of all the things that they have already gone through, and you will such have such a good head start in your life. I think for me that's the main thing. I've been very fortunate to have a very good mentor who's teaching me all of these things and is passing on to me all his different connections and telling me what I should learn, all of these things, and it's helping out a lot.
Yeah, I think you're really, really lucky and blessed to have that, that relationship and that mentorship right from your, when you're starting out your career. Thank you, everyone, for listening in and for sharing all these insights on the topic, which is, an uncertain future for these fresh graduates. I think we've addressed quite a number of things to help you navigate. For those of you who actually had asked questions about, application dates, because now everyone's really excited about the programs, but then unfortunately it's closed now, but it will open again very soon. So do follow Axiata on their social media, so you'll see updates, and also from the stories, you can watch the Insta stories and see how the program goes and see how you can align yourself with those and prep yourself. So hopefully you'll be in Fadli and Samantha's shoes before you know it. So thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure to speak to you, Puan Nolida, Samantha, and Fadli. I do hope to connect with you guys again soon, especially you, Puan Nolida. It's been so long. It's so nice to see you again. Okay. So for those of you who are, off to leave, please enjoy your year-end break to freshen up your mental health before we start with 2021. And, I'm wishing everyone a wonderful year ahead. Thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you so much, Nada. Bye.
All of you have a chance to become CEO. Spend time on being the best.
Indonesia won't be a vacation.
Everyone's really competitive. Even when the whistle starts, everyone just starts running already.
What doesn't kill you just make you stronger.
We could have done better if we have more time.
It's anybody's game right now, and anything can happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Young CEO Development Program Regional Business Challenge. Make some noise for our champions!
This is the worst drought. Millions are facing water shortages.
Somewhere over the rainbow,
At Axiata, we strive together to fast forward our promise of advancing Asia.